You can now use Claude to analyze, edit, and optimize your meta ads. And in this video, I'll show you how to set it up and what to do with it. Before we jump in, if we haven't met before, hi, my name is Evelyn. I've spent over 25 million on meta ads. I've grown my own low-ticket online education business to over 10 million in revenue, mainly using meta ads. I've worked with some of the biggest names in the online education space, and I am running ads for the Skool platform. So I know a thing or two about meta ads. And in this video, I want to demystify this new Claude can now run your meta ads. Because let me start with this. I'm a little bit annoyed at people making thumbnails saying this changes everything. To be honest, I think this is very much still in its infancy and we can do very little real things with it, but it's not to be said that this is not going places. So it's something that we definitely want to look at and understand in detail. So let's jump right in. I'm also going to provide the prompts on screen for you. So the first thing that we want to do is set it up. For that, we want to come to our Claude account, and then in Claude, we have our settings and we have our connectors, and here we can customize our connectors and we can add a custom connector like so. Here you can see I already have the meta ads connected. All you have to do, let me just disconnect it and reconnect it so you see it from scratch, is click here, add a custom connector, name it meta ads, and then you can already connect it. So this URL already exists, so I have to click here. But basically the same thing will happen for you. After you've entered this, it will say, do you want to connect this? Now you can click on connect. For me, it says reconnect because I already connected it before. And now it is there. Now we can actually work with this MCP and we can have Claude directly look into our ad account. So the first thing that I want you to test is looking into your ad performance with Claude. So you can use a prompt that then generates a dashboard for you where you can see your performance. And here you can see the prompt that I used. I will put it on the screen as well and also in the description below. So I basically let it pull all account level and campaign level performance data and then trend analysis, plus we're checking for anomalies and signals and unusual patterns. We pull in auction ranking benchmarks and we also build this in a dashboard like so. And here you can see it pulled the performance of my ad account for my own school community growth. Evelyn, I have spent 115,000 since January. You see the impressions, the clicks, the purchases, and then you also see how spend and purchase and conversions have correlated. Here you see the trend. I have a declining ROAS trend in here. And then you also see the campaign performance by comparison, so the different campaigns here. Then we also have the benchmarking and it shares the quality ranking, and then it also goes through the different ad campaigns, how much ROAS they have, and it gives some insights here. So while this is helpful if you know what you're looking for, this can also be super dangerous. And this is my first big takeaway for this video. Claude does not know the big picture strategy of ads for your business. Every niche is different, and this is for your business model, right? Are you running a school community? What type of school community are you running? Is it a paid? Is it a tiered? Is it a subscription? Is it a free? Is it a freemium? Your strategy will change. What are your other metric, right? What is your customer lifetime value, your backend, how much cash flow do you currently have? So it will often give you very generic advice that it will make up based on the numbers that it sees, and also often old, outdated meta advice that it has in the training data. And so if I was to try to optimize based on what this dashboard is giving me, I would completely blow up my account. So for example, I then asked it, right, what would you do about this ROAS trend? And the recommendation it gave me was the following. So let's dive in here a little bit more. It basically told me creative fatigue on your flagship campaign. So that was one thing. Spend scaled faster than reach, and then new winners launched below break even. So creative fatigue and flagship campaign, yes, I understand that, right? And I refresh it very, very frequently. Then the spend scaled faster than the reach. This is saying I'm hitting basically a revenue ceiling. I launched a prospecting campaign trying to see if that would actually improve. So there it did give me an idea for what I want to test next. So it's because I know what to do, and it's not because of what it said here, because basically its recommendation was to rebalance budget away from sub 0.8 ROAS campaigns and shift it towards proven ROAS campaigns that are underfunded. So if it would understand how ads are working these days, it basically says, oh, those of your ads that have a high ROAS, you should force more spend on it. But the way that Meta works is you load all of your ads and Meta distributes the spend. So this is very much old school advice to try to force spend on a creative that has a high ROAS. It just looks like it has a high ROAS because it got so little spend. But if you would force spend on it, your ROAS wouldn't go up. And this is, for example, something that I find so utterly frustrating, because then my students come back into the community and they're like, so this is my best performing creative according to Claude because it generated 3x ROAS. So now how do I make sure Meta only spends on it? It's like, yes, you can put that creative into a campaign, but obviously it will not work with the same ROAS if you're just trying to force the spend on that creative, because if that creative was able to spend more with a higher ROAS, Meta would already allocate the budget there. And this is something that's so frustrating, is the advice that it gives you is just really not up to date, mostly not relevant for your business. And the only thing that I think is helpful in here is that an experienced advertiser would look at this and like, here I would say, true, I haven't tried a top of funnel to reach new audiences beyond the broad targeting in a while, so let me test different prospecting campaigns setups right now. But you have to already be super sophisticated to then have the right idea sparked. Otherwise, this just leads you down, a really, really weird path. But obviously, if you know what to look for, this can be helpful. So you might want to check it out. And at least what is accurate is, yes, the ROAS did decline over time, and it's good to have an eye on that. So that's the first thing that you can do. You can also do things like map your purchases by country, right, to see if you have any potential there. And then other than that, another use case that I found was to identify what value rules you can set. So there's a new thing in Meta where it's not new, actually, not that new, but a lot of people have not said it. So you can, for campaigns, set value rules. Let me just show you an example of this. Next. Here, and then we have value rules here, where we can create a value set. So basically we can reach our preferred audiences. We get more of the outcomes we want. So we want to basically, with this, we can increase our bid in the auction for audiences that are worth more to our business. But our cost per purchase will go up when we're using this rule, right? So we're willing to spend more on a customer that is worth more to our business. So for example, I have a school community that has a lower tier and a higher tier. So I could bid more for people that are more likely to take the higher tier. And so what I did here is I prompted it, and again, I'll provide the prompts in a document below. I prompted it to identify where I should bid more. And so it looked at the age and gender and country and devices and platforms. So all of the things I can configure, and it recommended where I should spend the most. So here, for example, you can see it identified that between 25 and 34, I have really high ROAS. But obviously you also again want to look at the spend here, because the spend is just lower, then it doesn't mean that this is good. So for example, here, if I'm only able to spend 3,000, I should not bid more on that. But this does make sense to test a value set for this demographic, basically. Gender, here you can see, right, it says, oh yeah, you should bid more on males. This actually would make sense for me. So it's something I would at least consider testing in a separate campaign. Countries, for example, it makes absolutely no sense. Sweden is like, this is your most profitable country. You should spend, like, you should bid a lot higher here. But I was only able to spend so much. So there I would rather test a campaign directly to Sweden. So this is what I found most useful out of these things. I would also, for example, not necessarily bid more on this placement because I only got so little spend. So you always need to see it in conjunction with the spend as well. But net, that was actually a helpful use case. So breaking down this data for your account, I do think can be very, very helpful. It cannot analyze any copy or any creative yet. So you want to go basically by the spend of the creative and then copy and paste a screenshot of the creative as well as the copy. And then you can say, this is my winning ad based on this. How can I break it out into different formats? What are other ads that I can create? But again, I think you have to be trained to know what you're looking for when you create that next hypothesis, which, because AI is so confidently stating everything as a fact, it can really lead you in the wrong direction. I also tried to pause underperforming ads, and this was just obnoxious because it would just keep trying to run it and trying to pause ads in. So this was the prompt. I thought this was super straightforward. In these ad campaigns, can you pause all ads that didn't generate a sale in the last 30 days and then give me a summary of the paused ads, including the amount of sales these turned off ads have generated in the 90 days before the last 30 days. It would just keep running and running and running and burning tokens. So this might just be better to do manually to export the data and then process the data versus just having it burn through your tokens like crazy. So this did not work. I did then try to set up different type of campaigns like with BitCap, with Raw, Skool, etc. And that worked. So it can set you up a campaign shell, and that worked quite efficiently. But then I also was like, well, it has to know exactly what type of campaign to set up in what type of way. Otherwise, there's no point in it, right? Otherwise, it can just set up the wrong campaign again. Because when I asked it, what type of campaign would you run here? It could not come up with the right answer. So I realized I have to instruct what I want. And so probably the best use case for this right now is if you have a proven process of setting up ads, you want to create a skill for that and then have it follow the skill. So that's what I did here. And I built this skill for my students where basically I just guide them through so that my students can get the campaign set up right based on if they have a free or freemium community or a paid subscription or tiered community, and if they are in the validation phase or in the scaling phase. So this is basically a skill that I built that then walks the students through, and based on their feedback, then Claude knows exactly what type of campaign to set up, and then it actually does set up the campaign correctly in the account. It always does it as paused, which I always would recommend as well, and then you want to 100% make sure to look over it. So I was also able to bake in these disclaimers and warnings like you have to check, but then it actually did build out the campaign in Ads Manager. The only thing is you still have to add your copy and creative because it can only use ads that are already in the account, but it cannot upload your copy or creative for you. Overall, I think creating your own skills so it can then execute the skill for you and that takes off some cognitive load is at the moment the best opportunity with the Claude X Meta Ads MCP. Other than that, I think it's still very much in the infancies. Now, I don't want to say though that I think it's trash because I know how quickly things improve. And so how I see this is a very MVP version for them. But I do absolutely think that in the future, whether it's Claude or another tool, these tools will be able to actually analyze our creative, our video and images and our copy, and will allow us to create new angles we can test from there. And this is when it really will be a game changer. For now, definitely make sure to build out all of your workflows as skills or tap into the workflows that are proven as skills. So you can, for example, go and take some of my YouTube videos where I show you how to set up certain campaigns, like for example, your validation campaign, which is for all, not just the school community. So here, the ad that always works every time, or here, how to set up your first school ad. You can take YouTube videos that teach you setup strategies for your niche specifically, and you can turn them into a skill so that it can set it up for you if you want to do that, if it will actually improve your workflow. You should understand what you do. And yeah, if you want my skill for setting up ads for school because you're a schooler, then we will link it somewhere below this video. And other than that, I hope this was helpful for you and to see you in another one.